I'm Scott Brady with Overland Journal and Expedition Portal, and we are out here with three of the greatest discoveries ever made and brought into the United States. This is going to be our Discovery Shootout. So what is this Discovery Shootout all about? If you think about the internet forums and the web in general, even on Facebook, all of this banter about which discovery is the best or even which vehicle is the best. And typically what I find is it's the vehicle that the person owns. So even if they own a 2002 Discovery, which is actually the worst Discovery ever made, they're convinced that they own the best. Well, why is it the worst? These are the kind of things that we're going to talk about. So what we're looking for is the vehicles that are the pinnacle of their series. So we're looking for the best of the Discovery 3, Discovery 4. We're looking for one of the best of the Series 1 Discoveries. And we're also looking at what I believe is the best of the 1999 to 2004 Discovery 2. We've got some fun trucks. Let's see how they do on the trail. So for the first vehicle in our Discovery Shootout, we have a 1995 Discovery 1. This is a pretty rare Discovery 1 as well because it has a 5-speed manual transmission. 5-speeds were pretty popular the first couple years of the Discovery, but still only a couple thousand units came into the United States. And by 1997, we actually saw the last of the 5-speed Discoveries. This type of vehicle is also the thing that really got me into everything that I love about overland travel. In fact, it was an article that I read on the Camel Trophy around that period of time when I was active duty in the U.S. Air Force that got me inspired to look into all of this further. So when I went to look at our first project vehicle for Overland Journal, and this was in 2007, I thought, why don't we revisit that Discovery 1 that I always loved and always wanted. So I found a very low mileage Discovery. This is a 1995 that only had 72,000 miles on it when I bought it. So we used that as a multi-year project for us in the magazine, but the modifications are still pretty subtle. And you'll notice in the detail shots that we're not looking about big changes to the car, but there are some things that are worth noting. So again, this vehicle has a 245/75 R16, just like the Discovery 2. We've got about a 40 millimeter lift on it from Old Man Emu. We've also got rock sliders for protection. We've got an ARB front bumper with an 8,000 pound Warn winch. And then we've also got a steel rear bumper as well, which is a nice improvement over the plastic end caps that came with the original car. So overall, this Discovery 1 is simple in its modifications, with the one exception of it does have front and rear air locking differentials, which makes a significant improvement in traction for technical terrain. So we'll see when we leave the air lockers off for this test how it fares against the more modern Land Rovers with traction control. So for our second vehicle in the test, we have a 2004 Discovery 2. This is considered the pinnacle of the Discovery 2 line for several key features. In 2003, they introduced the 4.6 liter V8. It's also available here in the 2004 model. We're talking about 217 horsepower and, more importantly, 300 foot-pounds of torque. So a nice improvement over the 3.9 and the 4 liter. This vehicle, more importantly though, has a center differential lock from the factory. This was a significant oversight on the 1999 through 2003 model, where it relied exclusively on traction control for forward progress in technical terrain. By implementing the center differential lock again, then that traction control is just dealing with left to right as opposed to left, right, and forward back through the prop shafts. This is a pretty significant update. So this is what I consider the most capable of the Discovery 2s. And another couple nice things with 2004, they've refined a bunch of the issues that they had with the vehicle early on. I actually owned a 2001 model for many years, and we actually experienced a whole bunch of difficulties with that car. A lot of those things have been addressed with the 2004 model. They're just a more reliable vehicle. People are also getting high mileage out of these V8s as well. Fewer issues with head gaskets and fewer issues with the slip liners for the cylinders. So we're really looking at what I consider the pinnacle of the Discovery 2. And even more importantly, this is the Trek edition. So this was a vehicle that was produced by Land Rover for the Trek series, and we've had it from when it had only 1,200 original miles on it. And we've got about 16,000 miles on it right now, and we've really had no problems at all with this car. It came with a 245/75 mud terrain from BF Goodrich. It came with air suspension in the rear. It also came with rock sliders and a bunch of other factory accessories, including a winch tray with a Warn winch. And then we've got a safety devices roof rack. These are things that really set this vehicle apart from a lot of the other Discovery 2s. So as we see on the trail in the footage, this vehicle has actually got a lot of articulation, the traction control is quite effective, and overall we're really looking at the best of the last solid axle Discoveries. And for the third vehicle on our test, we have a 2012 Land Rover LR4. Now, this is a vehicle that we've had for just over 2 years, and it's been incredibly reliable, which is a really encouraging development with the Land Rover brand. We've also done a few modifications to this truck because we really wanted to see how far this modern Land Rover platform could be pushed to support our long distance travels and even more technical terrain use. And so far we've been really impressed. We installed an ARB front bumper, and we installed a 9.5 Warn winch as well, and we installed a 33-inch tire, and we also utilized what's called a Johnson rod lift that gives a little bit of a change in the position sensor for the airbag suspension that gives you about 2¼ inches of lift. And then further down the vehicle, we installed some aluminum rock sliders from Lucky 8. We also installed a really nice all-steel rear bumper that comes out of Australia, made by a company called Kmar, and we fitted one swing out for that to relocate the spare tire from below the vehicle to the back of the vehicle. On the top of the vehicle, we installed an Easy-On K9 rack. It's a full-length rack that allows us to fit a roof tent if we want to, or awnings, etc. And it also gives for a great platform for sleeping and photography as well. On the inside of the vehicle, the modifications were limited. We only put a 2-meter radio system inside, and then we also put a National Luna fridge between the 2 rear seats. One of the more complex systems that we installed into the inside of the vehicle is an Adventure Trailers comprehensive drawer system, and it goes actually from the rear of the vehicle all the way to the back of the front seats. And the 2 side boxes are removable, so you can still use the 2 seats to the sides of the fridge. And then we've also got 2 full-length drawers aft of the fridge that allow us to keep tools and recovery equipment. The really nice thing about that system is we can actually sleep inside the car. So overall, we've got one of the most refined vehicles that Land Rover's ever produced, especially in the Discovery line, and we've got really good reliability so far. That's the really encouraging thing for me. Great performance, but also really great reliability. So for the first obstacle, we're looking at the classic rock crawling scenario. So this is maximum articulation and minimal traction. So what's going to happen is these vehicles are going to climb up onto this rock, which is going to force this passenger side front tire well into the wheel well and get maximum droop out of the driver's side. So it's probably going to cause the Series 1 Discovery to spin. That vehicle only has a center differential lock. It has no traction aids for the front and rear differential. Now the Discovery 2 will probably do a little bit better. You're talking about a vehicle with similar articulation, and we're talking about traction control, an early form of traction control, relatively effective. And then we've got the Discovery 4, the LR4, that is going to have cross-linked air suspension. I'm also going to be able to raise the suspension for maximum ground clearance. I've got a longer wheelbase and a wider track for stability. And then it has a very advanced form of traction control. So for our second obstacle, we're looking at the classic rocky hill climb. So this is a really loose surface with embedded rock and loose dirt and smaller stones and several ledges along the way, where you're really looking at maximum traction and composure of the suspension through the obstacle. And we started off again with the Discovery 1, and the vehicle struggled the most. In fact, it struggled coming up through one of the crossed axle obstacles, and I had to take a couple runs at it and ended up making it with a great deal of speed. So obviously that puts a lot of strain on the vehicle, and it gives an increased opportunity for damage to the vehicle. And it's also a lot easier to bounce off of your line as well. So the Discovery 1, again, struggled the most on that particular climb. The second vehicle was the Discovery 2, far better than the Discovery 1, much more composed, also aided by the automatic transmission. Again, left foot braking, lower speeds, some wheel spin, but overall really good tractive performance. The vehicle climbed the obstacles well with lower speeds and a lot more control. And then the last vehicle, again, was the Discovery 4, the LR4, and the Discovery 3s are going to perform very similar. But the LR4, again, did very well. Longer wheelbase, wider track. It has independent suspension, which actually aids a vehicle like that in climbs where you're not looking at extreme articulation. So the LR4, again, very composed, easy climb. It was no big deal at all. It could do much more difficult, and it has. So let's talk about the Discovery One overall as a platform. I've owned this Discovery One since 2006, and I've driven Discovery Ones on 2 different continents. And this particular vehicle has a great deal of charm. It is really fun to drive with the 5-speed manual and the V8. But if you look at it as a stock vehicle or a near stock vehicle without accessories to modify the traction systems, we're looking at the least capable vehicle of the bunch. It's just clearly the case. It's quite capable in technical terrain. It's got the best departure angle of the bunch, has a 100-inch wheelbase, long travel suspension, narrow track, and this is a very suitable vehicle for this kind of travel. This, as we mentioned, is the premier Discovery 2 option. It is the car that has everything that you want the Discovery 2 to have. So this vehicle right out of the box is actually extremely capable, as we've seen today. We've had this vehicle for almost 2 years now. However, I will say that Discovery 2 is the biggest challenge for me in this whole lineup for one particular reason: the complexity of the vehicle and the lack of overall reliability. So this vehicle has a little more capability, as we can see, but it has a lot more complexity without the quality control that we see with the newer Land Rovers. So overall, the Discovery 2, some of the charm, solid front axle, a little bit better capability with the traction control, but the struggle is overall with durability. So the Discovery 4, Discovery 3, LR3, LR4 in the North American market, very refined vehicle overall, clearly the best performance, factory available rear locking differential, very aggressive and effective traction control system. We've had this particular vehicle for 2 years now, and we've modified it extensively. Overall, it has been an exceptional performer for us, and we've had 0 reliability issues with it. We're looking at a vehicle with long travel independent suspension. We've got airbag suspension as well that allows us to adjust the height. Another amazing thing about this car too is the turning radius. And that can be a real advantage in technical terrain, specifically with a larger vehicle like this. So what's the conclusion of this test? Everybody wants to know the winner. That seems to be the case on the internet banter, etc., is that everybody wants to either declare their vehicle the best or a certain vehicle the best. And the reality is that the LR4 is the full evolution of the Discovery line. It is the vehicle that is the most capable in conditions like this. It's the vehicle that's the most comfortable in conditions like this. And the reliability of the newer Land Rovers is far and above better than the previous models. But that's really not what matters. For me, I believe that the vehicle you drive should be the vehicle that you want to own, the vehicle that you enjoy and that you love. Personally, I love this 1995 Discovery One. It's a simple car. It's something that I can maintain easily on my own. It captures all of the greatness of Land Rover in my mind. So at the end of the day, the LR4 performs the best, but this is the car I want to drive home.